A very good evening. Hello and well, morning, lunchtime, wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining me again. I am very excited to be here. There is so much new. Most of all, I'm working with a new computer. So I hope it works. Let's just see if I can see any comments. It does seem so. There are actually quite a few comments from Sweden and London and California and Vermont. And this is exciting, Canada. I'm so pleased to see you all here. It's hopefully a really interesting topic, which I was so nervous about that I almost didn't want to do it. And suddenly, something very different came from what I expected. So let's just see how this is all going. Oregon, oh, this is wonderful. Finland again, hello. So I'm so pleased that you're all here. And I haven't heard anything to the contrary. So it does seem that you can all hear me. My apologies that at the moment the shows are like every other week, and it's going to be the same next week again. So next week is off. The following week will be on again, and then I hope to get it every week. Again, but it's just fantastic. Oh, Spain, it's just so exciting to have people from all over the world. So what I'm talking about today is really not just about the place where I am at present, but it is about a much bigger picture. Um, the world is just an interesting place. Well, the planning, well, I never quite know what I mean when I talk about the world. Do I mean the planet or do I mean the universe? Well, the universe is, well, more than we can possibly imagine. But this planet already is a pretty fascinating place. And for me, it started in a really interesting way because I hired a car this very morning in order to get to Glastonbury, which is about 2 hours, 45 minutes if you hit no traffic away from London. Depending on where you are in London, it may well be away almost 4 hours. And that was interesting because it was a very new car. And the last time I drove in England, I had a very old car. I had one with a key. So I rented this car. I walked to the car park where the cars were held from this car rental place, and I used the remote control so I knew which car it was. I sat inside and I tried to start it and it didn't work. There was some kind of button and I thought I could maybe push it, but you have to turn it. So I turned it and nothing happened. And then I turned it again and nothing happened again. And then I thought something is not quite right here. So eventually I turned it again. And then I realized that it was basically on all the time. It just didn't make any noise because it was such a new car that apparently is like completely silent. So that was interesting. So I eventually managed to kind of get the running gear, whatever it is, an automatic car. But anyway, I got it. And then the windscreen wiper, not windscreen, but the rear screen was on, and I didn't know how to switch it off. For 15 minutes, I did manage to switch it off. So that was kind of my start into the day. And then I drove, and I tried to, let's see if I can send you a picture. I drove one motorway, and then I drove another motorway, and eventually I drove past that, which of course is the famous Stonehenge, thousands of years old, somewhere in the middle of nowhere in a country that is normally described as Neolithic. Probably not just because it's Neolithic, because all country is Neolithic. It's only that was kind of built over, but because it's pretty barren and boring. But I don't know whether this was the idea of a Neolithic country. But these stones have been brought from hundreds of miles away, and it's nobody quite knows how they got there. There are just so many theories. But years ago, I remember I went on a meditation there and had a very powerful experience. So how do you have a powerful experience in the middle of nowhere? I mean, you can have powerful experiences anyway. You can sit in the kitchen. I'm in a little cottage, actually in the kitchen of the little cottage at present that Mom and I are renting. But I suppose I could have a spiritual experience here as well. But there are places in the world, on this planet, that are very conducive to having spiritual experiences. And Stonehenge is about an hour's drive from Glastonbury, where I am at present. And Glastonbury is very, very interesting. The kind of main feature or features are basically this hill, which is just a very nice, interesting shape. You can see it from miles and miles and miles away. Again, it's kind of quite barren. And there is a tower, which used to be part of a church. The rest of the church has been at some stage demolished. So the tower is just there. And it's called the Tor, Tor, which is just a generic term for hill at a certain time. It's like a very, very old-fashioned word in this area. So there's nothing special about the word, but there is something very special about the energy. There's also something very special about the energy of the village. Well, I call it village. It's probably a town, and everybody would be very annoyed, everybody, if I call it a village. I call it a town, the town of Glastonbury. And Glastonbury is very interesting. So at some stage, the area was flooded, not because there were floods, but basically because it was kind of so low, the area. Is it below sea level or something like that? It's just very low that there were waters around there. So just the town and the Tor, this hill, were kind of sticking out there, and it's connected to the story of King Arthur and the 12 Knights. It is connected to the ancient island of Avalon, which may have been the Tor or in this area. So there are like lots of mythological stories. The musical Camelot is based on this. So this is quite interesting. There even is a story that the wealthy uncle of Jesus, I think Joseph of Arimathea or so, because he was a merchant in commodities. He traveled here because it was a tin mining area, and he got metals from here. So there are all sorts of stories that cannot be proven, but it's interesting that there are so many stories about this place. Because there is, and I'm going to go into the bigger picture at the moment. I'm just really exciting. So I'm just sitting here in this kitchen in Glastonbury, and I'm talking about these interesting sites and stories, because interesting stories tend to be connected, whether they are true or not, to interesting places. And this is an interesting place, and I just want to kind of get why it is so interesting. So out of it's not the exact view, but a very, very similar view I have got from my bedroom in this little cottage. It's just fascinating because it is next to the Abbey of Glastonbury. And the Abbey of Glastonbury Cathedral was the biggest English cathedral until it was demolished in 15 something under Henry VIII, because of course it was Catholic, there was nothing else around at the time, but he then started to turn people to being Protestant, and they didn't want to follow, and he did some outrageous acts on the clergy, and he demolished it, and it was never rebuilt. In fact, there is a beautiful manor house from the early 19th century in the grounds of the Abbey. And I used to teach my master courses there, my Reiki master courses, for a number of years, and people just loved it there. And when the house was sold in the mid 19th century, it said in the advertisement, A beautiful manor house with interesting ruins in the garden. So, what once was England's most important and biggest cathedral turned to interesting ruins in the back garden. I think that's really, really interesting. But what's so important about this, it was just King Henry VIII demolished it because they were just so powerful. They had so much money, they had so much influence, but they did have that because in Glastonbury, the first Christian chapel in the whole of England was built. So I'm not going to go into Christianity or Christian history, but what I find so interesting is, why did they build it here? It wasn't like a grand town. It wasn't like a very important town, but there was something very interesting about the town. And this is, you can feel the energy. And I did try that actually. Just a few minutes ago, I was standing in this little cottage and I thought, can I feel the energy? And it was overwhelming. There is something that is somewhere between very calm and very powerful. There are so many things. So at the bottom of the Tor, the hill, there is a garden, Chalice Well, and the garden is a retreat center, really beautiful, again, very peaceful, very spiritual, beautiful energy. There is a natural spring. And I think there's a lot of copper or iron or so in the water, and it's supposed to have healing powers. I don't know, but what I do know is it's very nice. And I'm just drinking it at the moment. Every time I'm coming here, I drink this water, and I take a few bottles. So this is very, very special. But again, it's not about the water. It is about the energy of the place. And there is this theory of places with energy, that they have ley lines. They have energy lines going through them, and these lines connect important spiritual sites throughout history. Well, the thing is, the spiritual sites were kind of built over thousands of years, definitely, from the pyramids to something in the 19th century. But one might argue that these buildings were erected along, well, where they are, because people could feel the energy of these lines. They are often called ley lines, and some people who are very intuitive with it. There's no scientific proof, but some people are very intuitive about, like, these energy centers say, where they cross, you feel energy very strongly, and here ley lines cross in Glastonbury. But there is another concept of the chakras, not just chakras in the body, but chakras around the planet. 7 chakras, similar to the chakras in the body. And the heart chakra is commonly assumed to be Glastonbury, or the connection in the area of Glastonbury and Stonehenge, which is, I don't know, 60 miles apart or so, but on a global scale, it's still very close together. And in this idea of chakras on the planet, the Tibet is, or one particular mountain in Tibet is the crown chakra, which certainly makes a lot of sense to me when we look at the Tibetan spirituality and influence on the world. But this is all quite fascinating when we look at these things, some of which are very kind of tangible and we can feel something. Some are interesting concepts. But there is one thing that is undisputable. There are places on this planet where, when we stand there, we feel different. We feel the energy of the place. And we don't just feel the energy of the place, we feel a certain connection with the energy. And this is what is commonly called an energy portal. Indeed, there may be a place in a park near where you live, and that is your energy portal. But there are very famous energy portals, like the pyramids, like famous monasteries, famous, often places of pilgrimage. Pilgrims travel for I don't know, thousands of miles to get there. Sometimes hundreds, sometimes in thousands of miles, they travel on foot because the journey is so important, but they travel to a certain point. Why do they travel to this point? Sometimes it's to do with something that happened there, the birthplace of the founder of a religion or so. But often it's because there is a special energy of the place. A few years ago, I did a retreat in Glastonbury, not in Glastonbury, in Montserrat, a monastery near Barcelona, in Catalonia, northern Spain. And that is on a mountain. It's not very high, but it's up in the mountain. And I remember when I ran this retreat, I was extremely nervous and I tried to really kind of focus, and I felt somehow uneasy about how to start it. And the morning I started it, I went to the courtyard, which was a bit like cloisters. I'm not sure if it really kind of is classified as such, but it was like columns all around a square courtyard. And in the middle was a center stone, and it was marked. I think it had a triangular, I'm not so sure, a star in there. And I saw some tourists taking pictures there. So when they left, I walked there and I stood there, and I almost want to say, the experience of my life. I felt completely connected with the earth. I felt my body was part of this level. I felt my crown chakra opening, and I felt completely connected to these higher vibrations in the universe. One could say heaven, or the spiritual connection, or the actual source of everything. And I felt I was both at the same time. It almost felt, I don't want to say I was enlightened, but it felt like a moment of enlightenment, completely flesh, completely in a body, and completely divine, completely highest vibrational energy. It was incredible. And this is what a portal can do. I'm still not sure whether it was because of the architecture or because there was such a strong energy that the architecture actually was built, the whole monastery was built around this energy portal. And that is very, very interesting. So sometimes the architecture is very conducive, but the energy portals are there. And a very interesting energy portal is Mount Kurama, the mountain near Kyoto, where for 1,000 years temples were built, and it was a very important center for monks and for worship, Buddhist worship, and for pilgrims. And this is where Mikao Usui went. But he actually didn't he go to the buildings there. He didn't go to the temples or the very kind of beautifully manicured gardens. He went beyond. He went to the top of the mountain, where it was quite rough. And the energy there, I cannot say felt very calm, but it felt very strong. So this, after 21 days, staying on this mountain led to finding Reiki, to opening up to Reiki, to opening up the crown chakra and feeling this connection. So one could argue that his connection to the mountain, to the energy portal there, then kind of created this opening to higher vibrational energy. There are these portals all over the world, and you may get stories, you may know of them. I've been to some meditation gardens. I mean, they were created in the I don't know, 30s, 40s in Los Angeles. The Lake Shrine Temple, I think it's called, founded by Paramahamsa Yogananda in the 1930s in Pacific Palisades near Santa Monica. There's a very strong energy of the place. Is it the place? Which, interestingly, is the only place with a lake fed by a natural spring. All the other lakes are either saltwater filled or they are artificial. But that is very interesting. So this may be the reason. It may be the reason that for the last almost 100 years, lots of spiritual, meditators and people who felt the connection were there, and this kind of came there, and they kind of built up this energy there. But definitely there is an energy of the place. And that is conducive to opening up to this higher energy that we can feel and bring into our lives. I think it's just fascinating to go to places like that. And these places, most of the time, are really ancient. When I went to Santa Barbara a few years ago, a friend took me to the first Spanish mission there, the first Catholic church in Santa Barbara. And I looked at the building, and I think there was some mess going on, so I couldn't go inside. And there was a little park across the road. So we went to the park, and there was a rock, not too big, but it was quite biggish, maybe the size of, I don't know, a lorry, something like that. So it was quite big, and for some odd reason, I felt compelled to climb it. It wasn't very high. It was just a few feet high. And I stood on it, and I was almost shaking from the energy. And my friend said, "What are you doing up there?" I said, "Oh, just give me some moment." So they walked on, and I just couldn't leave it. It was so powerful. I felt so connected. And the interesting thing is, again, I felt connected to the rock, to the level of form, to the energy of the planet, and I felt connected to higher vibrations. So a portal always is a portal in both directions. And then I learned later that this was actually a holy place for the Native American Indians. And because of that, the first missionaries built the church right next door. I thought that was really quite fascinating. And this is what we can have at any given moment, feeling or creating a portal for ourselves. It's amazing to go to places like that and look at them, but we can even do that ourselves. Before we do that, and before we do this little exercise, and I feel I'm just talking. I don't even, I'm still looking at the pictures. I don't even look at the comments, but it's just, I'm just so mesmerized from being in this place. So before we do this little exercise, I just wanted to, I don't know, give my thoughts on why these portals are the way they are. There may be energy lines, ley lines, you may want to call them. There may be some activity on the ground. There may have been some big eruptions at some stage. There may be places of like volcanic forces at some stage. It's very interesting that a lot of people feel something on places with volcanic activity. So there's a lot of, well, one could argue destructive, one could argue this creative, but definitely powerful changing force. So there is some kind of energetic activity there, but it may well be that there is a huge accumulation of crystals in the ground, maybe, I don't know, a mile below the surface, a big kind of bed of quartz, of clear quartz, of amethyst, and so on. So this may indeed be the reason the different kind of formations of crystals in different areas, the different formations of rocks in different areas that create this kind of energy centers. So one could argue that having a crystal at your home on the table, and I know so many people who work with crystals and Reiki, they feel a very, very strong connection. So this may indeed be the case as well. No matter why they are where they are, once we find them, it's beautiful to just get this experience. But we can also get this experience in a very, very simple way. And I would just like to ask you to do this little exercise, or join me for this little exercise. So just take a moment to close your eyes and feel your feet on the floor. And feel your buttocks on the chair where you're seated. Just feel your connection with the solidity of the level of foam, and ultimately your connection with the earth, with the planet. Feel your connection, feel being in your body. And now open your crown chakra and just feel your connection with the universe. And just stay for a moment in this connection of feeling both. You are an incarnated spirit, and you are a spirit connected to the eternal divinity, to the eternal truth. And then slowly open your eyes again and come back into the here and now. So it somehow felt right to share this live. I wasn't quite sure where this was going, but what I find when we do find such a portal, when we open up to being in this presence, in this energetic presence of this earth portal and this heavenly portal, we receive healing, we receive harmony. It can be life-changing in terms of confidence, trust, and new ideas. And we kind of feel energized to carry on. And we just feel so deeply rooted in an eternal truth. So one could argue that what a portal can do to us is something that we already have in our hands when we use Reiki. So what Mikao Sui connected to, what he opened up to on Mount Kurama, he did not recreate with other people, sending them to a similar place. He just gave them into their hands through an attunement, through this energetic opening that Reiki starts with. And this makes it so special. So even though these portals are incredible, and often when we kind of get on this spiritual journey, we want to travel to these different famous portals we've heard of. I had incredible experiences in some places like the pyramids, but also we can just find this within ourselves. And Reiki is a path and really helps us to find this connection. So Reiki can help us create this portal at any given moment we open up to it. And of course, not only that, unlike what we feel in this kind of moment of one could say enlightenment, when we are in these special places. With Reiki, we can share it. And this is what I would like to invite you to do now, to connect to Reiki, to connect with each other, and to share Reiki. And the connection in such energy portals feels, we can go there again and again, and it feels very much, they're always there and we can trust them. But Reiki is something that is so extraordinary. We can do this Reiki share now. And as so many of you have already experienced, you can join in 2 hours or in 2 weeks and set your intention to connect with everybody on this Reiki share. And the connection is still there. Reiki takes us beyond time and space, and in a way, an energy portal does that as well. We are somewhere else. So when you're ready, I would like to invite you to join everybody and to join this Reiki share for a few minutes of healing, harmony, balance, so that we replenish our resources, so that we can, well, find the strength to deal with all the challenges in our lives and more become this beacon of light that we can be in this world. So when you're ready, just take a moment to close your eyes, to bring your hands together and connect to Reiki. And then just set your intention to connect with everybody else on this Reiki share who is here right now or who will join at a later stage. If you wish, you can also use the connection symbol to deepen the connection. And then just feel the connection, just reach out, just send Reiki to everybody, at the same time receiving Reiki yourself. And if you are suffering from a problem, a physical illness, if you're going through a difficult time, just set your intention that Reiki may help you with this challenge. just really take the time to sense what's going on. Sense the energy you are receiving to share and the energy you're receiving from everybody else in this Reiki share. You may just feel the energy. You may also get an idea in your mind, some hint about what to do next. And then you can bring your hands back together once more. Thank Reiki and slowly come back into the here and now. So thank you so much. That was very, very peaceful and really, really beautiful. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for being here every week and forming this beautiful community that we have. Should you be in London, I am running the most courses and workshops, well, all courses and workshops at the moment until at least the end of the year myself. So if you would like to join a special Reiki workshop or indeed a Reiki 1 or Reiki 2 course, then please have a look at the website reikiscienceacademy.com. Let me just see if I can find it here. This is where you can find all the information on the live courses. For those wherever you are in the world, there are several courses online, and you can find the information about the online courses at thereikirevolution.com. Wow, this is really organized. I'm so pleased that worked. So just do have a look at these offerings, and I am so looking forward to seeing you again. I'm afraid not this coming week, but the week after, again on a Tuesday. I'm not so sure what the topic will be, but I'm sure something's coming. It's really interesting. I find that whenever I try to kind of prepare for that, there is some very clear idea what to discuss. And thank you again so much for being here, for joining this, for having this impact in this Reiki share, and see you very, very soon. Have a beautiful rest of the evening, rest of the day, wherever you are. And if I can find it, I will now press the button for the beautiful ending page. And I just found it. So bye-bye. Thank you.